Let's do it, baby. Footy Fetish Show. Welcome back to the Footy Fetish Show, where the fetish is real, the footy is soccer. We're just trying to fill your holes with goals. The show, formerly known as Two Boys, One World Cup. Here it is, the Footy Fetish Show with the eighth wonder of the world, Ocho. Tell him what's up.
Yeah! Back on the mic! With the Mike Daddy. Mike Daddy, as always, a pleasure to be here with you. And we've got a special guest today. Who is that guest?
We got a repeat offender, sir. Oh, man. Our boy Connor, man. Say what is up, my friend. What's going on, man?
I know it's been a minute. Happy Mardi Gras. I know that just happened where you guys are at, so that must have been a blast. But thank you guys for having me. It's been a while, so I'm excited to talk some Champions League. We're really in the thick of it, knockout stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And Connor's not just a regular repeat offender where he just pops up and talks soccer. We have a few of those. This man has his own podcast, free plug right here. Please go check out Soccerheads FC. Awesome podcast. We're actually just talking about their Instagram is really popping off right now, the TikToks as well. So go check them out. Go friend them if you haven't. Tell them a little bit about that, man.
Thank you. Yeah, so Soccerheads FC on really all platforms, Twitter, but yeah, Instagram and TikTok is where we post a lot of clips, try to get a lot of comments and, maybe one or two clickbait type posts on there to try to get the people going, but it's always fun. So, Soccerheads FC podcast, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Dude, there's a couple of clips I meant to tell you when we were talking about this. I got distracted, AD. I always love the ones, like, if y'all disagree, Blair has this look on his face all the time. I can't, describe it, but I'm sure you already know what I'm talking. You can just see it, in the eyes. My wife has the same one. It's the funniest shit, man. Those are my favorite ones. I can't remember. There was one, man. Y'all disagreed on something.
Oh, I got it. It was ahead of the Liverpool Real Madrid game. And Blair is like, they've been doing pretty bad in the league, but I think it's Champions League. I think I could turn it around. And you're like, absolutely disagree. The clip just cuts right there. And it was like, oh, that was so perfect. I love that game.
Well, yeah, Liverpool, he was making some good points about Liverpool. They're not doing so well in the league, but, Real Madrid own that competition. So it's just when it comes down to it, that's what happens, and that's the beautiful thing about soccer. You can make all the sense in the world and then be just dead ass wrong.
Every time I go against Real Madrid, I've said it so many times, and Hugh Ray knows, anytime I ever do in Champions League, it always ends, it has the same conclusion every time. I just go, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't put money on Real Madrid. I did this week, so we'll see.
Yeah. Awesome. All righty.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll see. I probably jinxed it. We'll see.
As we said, we are going to be reviewing the second fixtures of round of 16, leg 2. First on the docket, we've got Benfica Club Brugge. This was an absolute pounding. Benfica came out swinging, won the game 5-1. Gonzalo Ramos, player of the game with a perfect 10. They dominated possession 60-40 and 20 shots to 13 shots. We're not going to really talk about this. We're going to move straight into the second game of the day, which was Chelsea and Borussia Dortmund. Connor, why don't you get us started here? What were your takeaways from this game here?
So I guess starting off big picture, when on my podcast with Blair, Soccerheads FC, I predicted that Chelsea everyone knows that with all the big signings that Chelsea, have gotten in the past few transfer windows, they must have the talent, right? Mm-hmm. So Champions League, when it's just those one-off games, any team can be so susceptible. If you get it cooking one game, and Chelsea had it cooking in this game at home at the Stamford Bridge. I predicted Chelsea to go through, but I'm more of a Dortmund fan, so I bet on Dortmund in this game to go through. So I just totally went against my head and logic and just chose my fandom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were able to catch the Kai Havertz penalty kick goal.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge topic of debate, because what happened was Kai Havertz missed the penalty kick, it got saved, and then it came right out to a Dortmund player, and he was able to kick it away out of bounds. But then he got called back for encroachment because supposedly the player entered the box before Kai Havertz kicked the ball. But when you look back at the VAR replay, you can see that there's a handful of Dortmund players along with Chelsea players in the box as well.
Yeah.
So without really looking into the specific rules of it, it seemed like it's one of those type of rules where it's almost like offsides, where a player can encroach, but if they end up playing it, then that's when it can get called for a foul or get called for, a re-kick. But it just, that didn't sit right with me. Just seeing the Chelsea defenders further or attackers further in the box just was kind of so frustrating, especially rooting for Dortmund. And it's one of those things where it's like, if Todd Bowley can spend $300 million or however much on players, it's like we're just seeing in La Liga with Barcelona, they were paying refs. And it's like, what is really going on in soccer right now?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of all over the place with this one. So I apologize. A lot of kind of jumping off spots. But this one was really interesting. Chelsea, Enzo Fernandez, he showed his kind of dominance in the midfield.
Definitely.
And it looked like that Dortmund was really missing that guy Adeyemi,
yes,
the Nigerian that got injured. He was starting. He was taking Gio Reyna's spot, which was frustrating in the beginning. But after seeing some games in the Bundesliga, they're missing him with a hamstring injury right now. But great game overall. What did you guys think about it?
Just to piggyback on what you're saying about that PK, I couldn't agree more. It feels like they make that encroachment call when it suits the team making the PK, right? You never see it go in, and then they're like, oh, you got to redo it. Somebody was encroaching. It feels like it's always after somebody misses, and they go, hey, somebody encroached. You can actually call that one back and have them reshoot it. I thought it was extremely, what's the word here? I thought it smelled fishy. It smelled like they almost wanted Chelsea to win this game. With that being said, Chelsea actually, I thought they had a lot of success going forward in the attack. And if it wasn't for Raheem Sterling just being absolutely off of his game, I think they would have done a much better job. He looked awful. And if you really want to know how poorly he played, if you just watch the goal he scored, he swung and missed it. He swung and missed the one-time ball. It somehow bounced off of him back to his feet. He went to go shoot it again, got a lucky deflection, and then almost skied it over the goal. He roofed it. That was like a foot over. He would have missed it from point-blank range. So Chelsea, but for the fact of Sterling just making it absolutely difficult, actually had a pretty successful game. I thought they had a great job, a great game plan against Jude Bellingham. Every time he got the ball, they were on him. They were aggressive. He got fouled 3 or 4 times within the first 20 minutes of having that ball picked up in midfield. It was very clear that was their game plan going forward, neutralize Jude Bellingham. And then on top of that, they lost Julian Brandt within the first couple of minutes, who has had a really successful season this year. Now, us being Americans, that was really exciting to see Gio Reyna come in immediately. And I thought he had a lot of success. I was surprised to not see him play this weekend. I thought he looked fantastic. There were many times where he was dealing with pressure, and he was able to hold that pressure off, balance on the ball, and then release and keep the possession moving. But overall, like you said, really good game. Unfortunate to see Dortmund not make it through. Sterling basically allowed Dortmund to stay in this game for as long as they did. And I don't see them really having a lot of success moving forward if Sterling continues to be in the starting lineup. Booty, what are your thoughts on this?
First of all, cool to see Gio get in. I have heard some rumors that his family has some dirt on Terzic, so he had to put it in. But I'll tell you what, the one I don't know if you remember, we discussed going into this game, it was time for Chelsea's money men to kind of show up here. So good to see Enzo show up. We said he needed to. We said Joao needed to show up a little bit better. Really put the team on their back. They did. I also want to shout out Koulibaly. Definitely. From what I was looking at stats-wise and some of the highlights I saw, he actually looked a little bit better, obviously, like you were saying, shutting down Jude. Just to show you what I'm talking about, I also bet on Dortmund as well, Connor. Didn't work out. But I also bet on Bellingham at least having a shot on goal. Like, there's no way he doesn't get one shot on goal, right? No shots on goal for old Jude. So good to see those guys start to show up. And then you have the Sterling goal. Could it be any more of a Sterling goal than what you just explained, right? Yeah. So props to Chelsea for showing up at home. PK was a little weird. Really would like to see this one go a little extra time just to see these guys just
Yeah.
battle it all the way out till the end. But sometimes it don't work out like that. So yeah, good way to go, Chelsea, man. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can keep this momentum up. Just them having looked so terrible going into this. Now they're gonna start to play with some real big boys now. So we'll see if they got it in them.
To add on what you're saying there, I'm just realizing, I believe they're going to redraw for the next round, but it's going to be a redraw, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's going to be between Benfica, Bayern, and Milan as far as the teams that they'll play. So
Okay.
if that's the case, if it's Benfica or Milan, they've actually got a really good shot. If they have to wind up playing Bayern Munich, I don't see them going through. So pending their draw, it could work out. With that being said, let's go on over to the Wednesday games. We've got Bayern PSG and Tottenham AC Milan. Bayern beat PSG 2-0. AC Milan were able to hold off Tottenham. Let's jump into this Bayern PSG game. Booty, give us some of the players that you thought shined really well in this game.
The first player that comes to mind, obviously, you can look at the score sheet, Choupo-Moting.
Yeah.
Big shout out to him taking it to his old team, man. So that's a really cool one. A little revenge right there. To be honest with you, man, my one takeaway from this, I had no doubt Bayern was going to do this, man. Obviously, I mean, look, they're the machine, man. They always show up.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad PSG's gone home, dude. I'm just really like no offense to any of our folks who love PSG, man. Yeah. I'm just so sick of talking about them for nothing, dude. Just so fucking sick of it, man. And now, it only made it worse that Messi's there, to be honest, because that now it's like, oh God, I have to fucking talk about it. And they're still doing nothing. So, you spend all this fucking money for what, man? Yeah, I'm just go home, dude. Go home.
Go home.
And hey, they have some players that I like, man. They got some players I like to watch. I like Hakimi. Mbappe's fun to watch, obviously. Who doesn't love to watch that man? Verratti's a guy that never gets talked about over there. Talked about enough anyway. But man, it's still. And again, you see what happens here. Bayern whoops their ass in 2 legs, 3-0 aggregate, right? And I'm still talking about PSG some kind of way here. I'm just sick of it. Go home. That's all I gotta say.
Connor, give us your thoughts on this. Did you have any doubts that Bayern would win this?
I did, because you never want to be in the position where you're betting or rooting against a player by the name of Kylian Mbappe.
Fair.
Just how dangerous he can be on the ball. It's like, oh crap. If he can run faster than every single player on the pitch, that's just a cheat code. And we've seen that time and time again. But I mean, Bayern just did an unbelievable job giving him no space.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure how many chances Mbappe really had, but we saw it in the first leg when he came on. Kind of dealing with a little bit of an injury. I mean, instant impact. They weren't ready for him. And it's like, okay, maybe Mbappe doesn't give 100% effort every game in League One because they can just win, or, if they lose a game, then it doesn't matter. But it was just disappointing not really seeing any chances from Mbappe. Messi and him weren't able to connect. One take that I have that the internet seems to wholeheartedly disagree with me on is, I think Verratti is a good midfielder, a great midfielder, but I don't necessarily think he's ever been one of the best in the world, because when you look at it, Verratti's been the only player on this Chelsea project for the past 10 or so years. And it's like, for 10 years now, we've been saying, oh, with Cavani and Ibra, they have a chance. With Marquinhos, with Thiago Silva in defense, they have a chance. And I don't know, we saw Verratti give up that howler inside his own penalty box and give Bayern that goal. So, I mean, I really don't know what the problem is for PSG. Maybe it's just, they have the talent, but they don't have the team. And we even saw 2 chances. Sergio Ramos had 2 header chances at the end. He could have scored at least one of those. One was saved and one was put just wide. And you think, a more prime Sergio Ramos can put that one into the back of the net. But disappointing for PSG. And Bayern, their midfield, we were talking about this on the podcast, it's such a strong midfield. I don't know if you guys remember when they won the Champions League a few years ago. Like, Phil Coutinho was on that team, and he was looking jacked.
Yeah.
Like, whatever their training program is there, they just focus so much on the physical aspect of the game. And it's like when we saw it in this game where their midfield's getting run over PSG's. And, back in the day when Bayern was running through Barcelona, it's like that finesse style was just getting overwhelmed by Bayern's just top to bottom, total physicality. Having Alphonso Davies, we're looking here, he was a player of the match, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that man was just getting up and down the pitch totally. Hakimi couldn't deal with him and Musiala and just the attack down that wing. So Bayern, really no chinks in the armor at all, just total dominance there. And, they're going to be a hard team to face moving forward.
Piggybacking on what you said, you had said, I don't know what the problem is with PSG. I think the problem is exactly the thing that you said about Bayern, which is they have such a good core group of German players that establish their identity. You've got Kimmich, Goretzka, and Mueller in the midfield. Those guys are German to the definition. They are absolute. The identity of that team is the bedrock of them. The French PSG, all they really have is Mbappe. And does he exhibit an identity of PSG? I don't really get that same feeling from this PSG team that they have an identity of what it means to be a PSG player. Bayern, on the other hand, it's been the same style of soccer, like you said, going all the way back to 2020, 2021, when they faced PSG in that championship. It's the same style. It's very physical, it's technical, and it's very fast. The physicality of Bayern to PSG, that's part of their identity. And, they lose Lewandowski, and you're like, oh, they're going to struggle. They go and get Choupo-Moting, who exhibits that same style of play. He's a big physical striker that's just he's going to show up for you when he needs to and put a goal in the back of the net every once in a while. One of the players that I was really impressed with was Matthijs de Ligt. He had 2 goal line clearances that saved this game. This game could have easily been flipped on its head. Vitinha got around Sommer and had an easy tap in, and rather than just smash it into the goal, he tried to do this little passing dribbler, and de Ligt, who's he just knows better, still made the run to the goal line, was able to easily clear it off, no challenge at all. And then as well as Upamecano, got to give him credit. And to like what Connor said from Soccerheads FC, that midfield is so strong. You put behind it de Ligt and Upamecano with just a quality, consistent Jan Sommer. The spine of this team is just so strong. I would hate to face this team in the next round, being that my team is AC Milan. If we draw them, I'm not hopeful there at all. So couldn't have said it any better. Not to mention, if we look at the bench that came in for Bayern and we look at the bench that came in for PSG, Sadio Mane coming off the bench, João Cancelo coming off the bench, Leroy Sané coming off the bench, and I forgot his first name, Gnabry, also coming off the bench, getting a goal. You look at PSG, Bernat, Mukiele, Zaire Emery, Bichiabu. I don't know any of those players. And so you have 2 of these teams, starting 11, probably comparable. And then you go to their bench, and it's just, that's where the Bayern just overtake PSG every day of the week. On paper, this was very obvious. I don't think we had anybody on the Footy Fetish channel that voted for PSG that was not a PSG supporter. So that just goes on to further suggest, that this was Bayern's game to lose, and they did not lose. So props to Bayern. They are going to be a dangerous team moving forward in this tournament. They are.
Do you think if Neymar was healthy and fully fit for this one, it would have made a significant difference where PSG could have been looking at advancing, or do you think it just would have been more the same?
Honestly, and I'm a Neymar fan. I'm going to say that first off, so I am biased. I think he would have made a difference. He's more of a creator for PSG than anything, and they needed somebody to do something out of the ordinary. Messi is getting older. He's not going to be one to take the ball and put the team on his back. Mbappe relies on service deep into the attacking third. So personally, I think Neymar would have given them a little bit of a change that could have given them an opportunity to potentially win this game, or at least get an early goal to put some pressure on Bayern. Booty, what do you think? Would Neymar have changed this game?
So at first I was about to say yes, because they'd probably add on 10 extra minutes for, him rolling around. But when you said that, Hugh, actually, that's kind of where I was about to lean to. You felt like something was missing, just like maybe one little piece was missing here. It would have been nice to maybe see Mbappe with Neymar, because the times we have seen it, it's been great. But it's starting to get to the point with Neymar. Same thing. I'm glad you said this with Verratti too, Connor, because I feel like it's more like an injury thing with him. Like, I was trying to pinpoint why he doesn't get talked about enough, actually, and I feel like I'm starting to put Neymar on that list. I'm starting to put Ibra on that list too. I call it the Zion list. Okay, like, I know when you're on the field, it's going to be spectacular, but I'm sick of guessing when that's going to be. I'm sick of basically trying to figure out, if everything's going to revolve around you, you need to be on the pitch, and it's not anybody's fault, but you feel like if you had a healthy one of any of those guys we mentioned, of course it'd be different, It's just trying to figure out, is he going to stay healthy through this whole thing? And at this point, like, I don't have any faith that Neymar could make it through if they were to make it all the way in. I don't have faith he could make it. So,
and to add on what you're saying, when he was healthy and he did stay on the field for PSG, what did they do? They made it all the way to the finals.
Yep.
So it just goes to show what you're saying. If he's on the field, spectacular things happen. Now, you kind of avoided the question there. I want to nail you down, Booty. Do you think PSG have a chance to win if Neymar's on the field?
No, still no. I still take Bayern.
Okay. Connor, what do you think? That's a great question.
Yes.
I think so, just because it seemed like that midfield of Vitinha, Verratti, and Ruiz was just too not creative enough. Like, Verratti's the most creative midfielder in there. Vitinha and Ruiz box-to-box guys.
Yeah.
Booty said it. They needed Neymar's creative nature in there to kind of make space for Mbappe, because Messi, I mean, that guy's he should have retired after Argentina won the World Cup. I mean, he gets the ball at midfield and that's it. He doesn't do any tracking back. Same with Mbappe, really. Those three guys, Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi, don't do much tracking back. And I think that goes back to the problem.
Good point.
And also just the fact that they play in Uber Eats League One. It's like nobody cares about that league. So it's like that's probably why Verratti doesn't get that hype, and maybe why I'm biased on just thinking he isn't really that much of a guy, over there. But yeah, PSG, and they're never in a spot where they're like, okay, we can build on this. It's like, when's Mbappe leaving? Is Messi going back to Barcelona? So it's like they never really have that foundation of like, let's build off this and kind of see how we can take it from here. So it's tough if you're a PSG fan, but I don't really know if there are too many of them out there.
At this point, I feel bad for the ones we know, man, because it's how close have they gotten so many times?
Mm-hmm.
They're the Buffalo Bills at this point. It's just,
Going back to what you said about the Uber Eats League, if you look at that Ligue 1, PSG are clear in first place by 11 points. You go to Bundesliga, and it is a much tighter race. Union Berlin, within the last 2 weeks, was in the top 3, top 2, and they've kind of slipped off with a draw, loss, and a draw. But this Bundesliga has really stepped up this season. And initially I thought maybe Bayern are just not as good as we thought they were this season. But then you look at them just walk over PSG, and you're like, okay, well, obviously this means that Bayern is still a very good team because they're playing against one of the best teams from the French league. You go and look at this Bundesliga, and these teams are all very close within each other in the top 5, maybe even top 6. A couple of wins for Union Berlin, Freiburg, Leipzig, and Dortmund, and they're right behind Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich only need a draw or a loss to really allow those teams to close the gap quickly. So, I couldn't agree. Is the French league, I guess where I'm going, is the French league something that actually handicaps PSG when it comes time to the Champions League, because the competition there is just not enough for them to actually to grow and develop into a team that are actually contenders? I don't know, but it's the same story every year for PSG. They've got all this talent, and they can never really get to where we all think they can. So it remains to be seen. I think they just need to overhaul that entire team and start from scratch and do like a year zero. But we'll see. So great points all around. Go ahead.
Especially with this Bayern squad that has 7 draws in the Bundesliga, you think, okay, this is like a weak year for Bayern, and they were just able to manhandle PSG.
Yeah. Is that PSG being a weak team, or is that the Bundesliga being a strong league? I'm leaning towards Bundesliga being a really strong league this year. And specifically to add on to that point, the German league has the most teams in Europe competition this year. Because if we look at last year, Eintracht Frankfurt won Europa. So you've got the top 4 from Bundesliga. You've got the winner of Europa. So you've got 5 in that league. You've got your typical Europa teams. They actually have the most teams in European competition this year. So it kind of just adds to that idea that maybe the Bundesliga is a very competitive league, which helps Bayern move forward in the competition. What were you going to say, Booty?
I was just going to say, if you look at it, I mean, and I agree with what you guys are saying too, but this is just another point I was thinking. I mean, with some of those guys you mentioned earlier, Hugh, that have just been there for years, Mueller, Kimmich, these guys, like, they understand there's an attitude there at Bayern that's not at PSG. And I think that reasoning is because Bayern buys guys that are sold on that attitude. PSG buys guys just because they want to go on a shopping spree.
Right.
Okay. So if things don't work in a year or so, they're going to go buy somebody else. Bayern's already bought the guys that they know have understood and they're sold and they're in this, So when you have that attitude, you just can't build that from nowhere, So it's Bayern,
PSG is just thinking, how many social media clicks will these transfers get and all that stuff.
Exactly. What's a hot name on the transfer market we can go after, throw our name out there. We'll probably get him, Sergio Ramos, perfect example. That man is clearly not what he used to be, obviously, And hey, he had he had a couple great last games, but he's another one. When are you going to be on the pitch for me? He's starting to get a little old. So it's just one of those things. I always, whenever I'm watching Bayern, I just feel like I'm watching a trained machine, They're all like, there's no one that is not on this same page right now. And with those 7 draws that you mentioned, Connor, those top dogs, the Muellers, the Kimmiches, they weren't having that shit.
No.
No one had their head down the next day of training, Whereas PSG, we got guys that you guarantee right now, watch, injuries going to start popping up, right? It'd be interesting to watch how PSG finishes their season over there.
Right.
Just to see what happens, see what they change, see what names pop up that might be on their way out. It's that same mentality every year for PSG. And I think that's where those two differ.
Definitely. Well said. It's going to be exciting to see how Bayern advance to this tournament. I just really hope it's not my boys. Speaking of which, let's talk about my boys against Tottenham.
Yeah.
Tottenham versus AC Milan in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We're able to hold off a 0-0 draw and advance on a 1-0 aggregate. Bravo, boys. Oh, man. This was a really good game up until that red card. And once we saw that red card, it was pretty obvious that Milan were going to walk away with this. I got to be honest, I was extremely nervous heading into this second leg here because of the form that Milan were in. We were losing a lot. We were conceding a lot of goals, and we were not looking like the team that won Serie A last year. We made a quick formation change. We added this player right here, Malik Chow, who is a 21-year-old German defender who has been the difference maker for us, as well as this formation. I also got to give credit to Brahim Diaz, who has been absolutely stellar for Milan. He's been kind of a traveling player, starting at Manchester City and then going to Real Madrid, always having this hype kind of behind him and never really living up to it. And Milan has been able to give him consistent starting minutes, which has allowed him to flourish. So glad to see that. And then, of course, got to give a shout out to Teo Hernandez with the man of the match. He looked absolutely stellar on the pitch for those boys. Il Capitano. Pleased that these guys were able to hold off a clean sheet in advance. Connor, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and I'd like to get your perspective because I feel like going into the season as an AC Milan fan, you won the title, so obviously on top of the world.
Yeah.
But then the storyline going into it was just the fact that, they won the title and they didn't make too many improvements to the squad. I don't have the exact, in and out players for the transfers, but kind of that was a storyline going into it. And they're not having their best season. They're obviously not fighting for the title right now with Napoli. So my expectations weren't too high for AC Milan, but it kind of just goes to show when, similar with Bayern, when you have like a good manager with a good philosophy, with a team that kind of buys into it, because, we saw Giroud, Arsenal didn't want him. Chelsea, didn't really want him. And now he's the starting striker for AC Milan, advancing in the Champions League. So what is kind of like the, thought process with this going into kind of moving forward? You said Bayern isn't kind of who you want to be facing up against, but my perspective, AC Milan, they can get results. They're not going to be pretty about it. It's not going to be like how PSG might be able to go about it. But at the end of the day, it's just survive and advance. So that's what I think AC Milan has the best talent at. And it just sucks that Harry Kane couldn't kind of find that decisive goal and really just kind of build his legacy, because he's a player that I really think deserves it.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a class act type of guy.
Yeah.
And, it's always he can't get the trophy, and it doesn't look like he's going to be getting any trophies this season either.
Right.
But AC Milan, they're a very interesting team, and I don't know if it's ever a good time to call AC Milan a dark horse, but the way that they're able to get results and behind their captain, Teo Hernandez, I mean, he's a beast out there.
Yeah. To add on what you're saying, the issue with this summer was that they were transferring the ownership. And the previous ownership did not want to spend any more money, and the new ownership were trying to get the deal over the line. So neither party were willing to splash and go and get new players. So we were forced to go and pick up Malik Chow, Asher Vranks, Divock Origi is another player that we brought in who has really been a huge letdown. So I give all the credit to Ibrahimovic coming in a year and a half, 2 years ago, and bringing back this identity of what Milan is supposed to be as a Champions League Scudetto winning team. And he's been able to kind of infect everybody on the team, especially the youth. Whether it's Teo Hernandez, Rafael Leao, Sandro Tonali. There's a lot of youth. Tomori is another one. Kalulu is another one. We've got a lot of youth that Ibra has been able to come in and kind of instill what it means to be at AC Milan. And that has really been what's kind of pushed us forward. We don't have the best players on the field, but we all have bought in to what Pioli and his system is and the identity of the team. And I think that's ultimately what got us over the line. As far as Kane, Kulichevsky, and Son, I think we just had the pace to be able to hang with these guys. And, I mean, we know Conte loves his back three. We face a back three with a back three, and then you all of a sudden, you eliminate that advantage of what a back three can do for you. It's now who's got the better players on the field, and we were able to just hang in there and not concede any goals. Booty, I'm going to pass it over to you. What are your thoughts on Tottenham not being able to advance forward this year or on this game?
Obviously they get hit with some injuries and they've kind of been on a little downward slope as of late. I would have thought they would have at least got that one goal. Yeah. I was waiting, for it to pop up on my phone at some point, and it never did. You gotta look at what Richarlison said. I'm not sure if you guys heard about it, where he said how this season was shit.
Yeah.
And Conte's response was, "Yeah, he's right. His season has been shit."
Yeah.
So a little something to watch right there. But no, man, I really would have thought that Conte would have threw some numbers forward. They would have got this one goal. So that's saying a lot, man. I really thought that maybe Kane or Son would have somehow figured a way. They seem to always figure a way
Yeah.
when they're in a corner like that. With it not happening, I really thought Kulusevski was going to show up too. He's been great since he's got over there. So it was kind of, I wouldn't say I was shocked because it is Tottenham, uh, but same time though, I really would have thought they at least could have gotten that one, and they at least would have taken it to extra time.
Do you think Conte actually wants to be there? It's like some of the stuff he's saying, it just doesn't seem like his heart's in it.
I felt he definitely was when everything was going well, and that's the thing with Conte for me. He's probably my favorite manager just because, just such an emotional guy, fellow Italian as well. I always feel like when things are going great, he's running in the stands, high fiving, hugging people, and
Right.
when things aren't going great, though, he's bitching about how he needs more money. Now he's calling out his players, so that's kind of his good versus bad
Right.
with him. So, hey, as a Juve fan, I'm really hoping he just comes on back home because we need a
Yeah.
whole change of scenery over there right now. So,
Yeah, I think he sees what Mourinho's doing over at Roma, and it just looks like Mourinho's having so much fun over there
Yep.
in the capital. And I think he's like, oh, I just want some of that, where the media handles everything differently. Like Mourinho's, I'm pretty sure he has 3 red cards in Serie A this season. It's like he's just doing whatever he wants to do over there. And
Yeah.
it's like I think Conte wants some of that.
oh man, I want to see
By the
some
way-
Conte Mourinho matchups, man.
Yeah.
Roma lost in a thriller today against Sassuolo, 4-3.
Oh, and they were down 2-0, weren't they?
Yeah, that talk about fucking
Yeah,
thriller.
and Roma got a red card. It was one of those. I don't know if you guys saw it because it happened like right before we hopped on, but it was a tangle of legs, and I think the guy was Kabula on Roma, and he just kind of like gave a little kick out on the ground to Berardi, and there was no physical harm caused by that kick,
Right.
but just the intent behind it. And it's one of those things where it's like, I guess he deserves a red card, but
Yeah.
it's like Berardi, if he didn't flop, but then it's like, okay, if he doesn't flop, then he doesn't get the red card.
Right.
They don't have the advantage. So that's why it's like soccer rules sometimes. It's like players flop out of necessity and out of getting the advantage, but it sucks to see sometimes.
Just to take a quick tangent on that, I often have to explain to people that the rules of soccer give too much power to the players. And what I mean by that is the advantage rule gives the power to the player to determine when the game is stopped. So if I'm dribbling and you foul me, if I fall to the ground, you have to call that because the advancement of the play has halted. But if I choose to continue, then I can choose to continue and advance the play. But because of that advantage rule, I get the power as soon as I feel contact. And it's very much that same scenario there. If the player doesn't fall, there's no red card. But because he falls, the ref is now forced to give a red card. It happened in the previous week. Moise Kean comes on, kicks the shit out of Pellegrini. And, like, it was so delayed. Like, you see him kick him. He waits a half a second, and then he falls over. And it's like, God, that's so fucking Italian, right? Like, just... Anyway, no, to add on, so I totally agree there. That's just, unfortunately, the rules of soccer, and it'll never change because of that advantage rule. How did we get on to Juventus? I forgot who. Conte. So, to add on what you were saying there, I think if Conte leaves, I don't think he'll be mad. I think if they're like, okay, it's time to move on, he'll be like, all right, fine. Juve, you ready to kick things back up again? You ready to go back, ex-girlfriend? I think they'll gladly take Conte back, and I think Tottenham, the rumors are that they might go back with Pochettino, which would be really interesting because we've seen the success that he has had there. And the player that I believe created the rift in the locker room that wound up getting him fired is no longer there. I think it was Vertonghen, if I remember correctly. It was one of those Belgian players. It was after that Champions League where it was Tottenham, Liverpool wins. Apparently there was a dust up in the locker room. There might have been some some player feuds going on, and Pochettino just lost control of the locker room. They send him, they go get Mourinho, then they get Conte. So I think enough time has passed that you bring Pochettino back. I think he can turn this club around, especially because Kane is there, Son is there, and Hugo Lloris as well. Three leaders. So it'll be interesting to see what Tottenham are going to be doing this summer. But they continue their streak of no trophies. Well done.
Yeah, Tottenham, or when Conte takes over a job, he does such a good job of getting players that fit his system. And the problem is, it's like it seems like all the players that they have, minus Harry Kane and potentially Heung-min Son, is they're just system players. There's no game changers. Like Romero won the World Cup with Argentina, but it's like he's a top class defender, but we saw he is just he gets so many yellow and red cards, so it's like he can't exactly be reliable.
Yeah.
So I think Conte looked a little too hard to fit his system and not kind of find the best talent out there with Tottenham this time, because people were saying like Tottenham won last summer's transfer window, but it's like, no, it just kind of seems like some system guys that aren't being utilized as well as they could be for their talents.
Correct. It's a great point too, because if you think about how this season started, right, or even going back before that, who does he go out and get? Kulishevsky and Bentancur, right? Yep. Well, now that Bentancur's hurt, look at exactly what you're saying, man.
Yeah.
Like, where's those guys that can, he can just plug in? He doesn't have them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Oliver Skipp, young English center midfielder. He's starting to kind of find his identity in this team, but it's too little too late for Tottenham. Not to mention, I believe Conte was coming back from a surgery, and this might have been his first or second game back with Tottenham, and it's a Champions League game against an AC Milan team that's clicking. So it's just it's been unlucky, and it's also been shit, to quote Richarlison. So
yeah,
I'm glad we actually, when I saw that draw, I was glad because I knew that Tottenham were beatable. And then, with the news of Bentancur tearing his ACL, it was like, the odds kind of leaned a little bit more in Milan's favor, in my opinion. So glad that the Rossoneri were able to pull this out. I am very nervous to see who we face because the only team I'd be really confident against would be Benfica. Chelsea, as we said earlier, are capable of just flipping a switch. So we'll see what happens. But this upcoming week, we've got 4 more games. And while we've got Soccerheads FC Connor, we are going to get you to share some predictions with us as well as drop some betting odds. So before we show you the betting odds, we're going to get your predictions here on who you think will win this one. So Tuesday, March 14th, we've got Manchester City hosting RB Leipzig. Who do you have winning this one, Connor?
I have this one going into extra time.
Really? Draw 9?
Yeah, it ended in a draw, and I think the next leg is going to end in a draw, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Let me double check for you.
Because I had
1-1. You're right.
Yeah, I had RB Leipzig actually. I put a bet in RB Leipzig to win this one because I was like, I thought they were going to be the most dangerous team in the Bundesliga, challenging Bayern. It's looking like it's going to be Dortmund more in that conversation. But RB Leipzig have those game changers. And Cuckoo's coming back to be fully fit. They have Timo Werner. They got Andre Silva up there. They got a good midfield with Campbell and Forsberg. They have one of the best young defenders in Vardiol. He was the guy that got the goal against Man City. So, I mean, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I mean, I would take, for betting odds, I would take maybe like RB Leipzig double chance, or if like you maybe mix a parlay in. But I think there's definitely value in going for the RB Leipzig to squeak out some type of result, or at least even keep it close, depending how drastic the odds are. Because when you look at Man City's home field advantage, like there is none. So that's why I think RB Leipzig have a chance in this one.
Nice. Booty, before we show the odds, who do you got here? Man City or RB Leipzig?
It's tough, man. I'm gonna go Man City to advance, but I'm on the same page with you here, Connor, because, and actually, if you think about it, this should be like the no home advantage bowl right here. Like this is it right here. Because on the flip side, you got City fans, which aren't, they're kind of paid to be there. So, oh man, yeah, RB Leipzig, like you said, Connor. I mean, people forget Nkuku was subbed in last time, so I would like to see a full game from him this time. We're talking. This is what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking that they go to some extra time as well. I actually bet under 3.5 on this one because of the fact, hey, you got two goal scoring teams, so they probably are just going to play a chess match, right? Um, as far as the game goes, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking Man City to advance because KDB will be back, or at least we think he's going to be back, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
projected
So
starting lineup. For me, Man City have been dying without KDB. I think with KDB, this is a no-brainer. I think Man City advance easily. Looking at the odds here, we've got Man City at negative 270, a draw at plus 420, and
yeah,
a win for Leipzig at plus 650. Leipzig will be missing Danny Olmo, Abu Diallo, Peter Gulashi, and Xavier Schlager. And Nkunku is doubtful. Like you said, Booty, I
Damn.
think if he starts, the odds for this game change significantly. So I'd be interested to see if he played over the weekend. I'd have to look into that. And if he did, how well did he do? And how many minutes did he play? But that is going to be a really fun game to watch. Moving over to the other game, we've got FC Porto versus Inter. That game is a 1-0 aggregate over to Inter, but this will be in Portugal in FC Porto's stadium. Booty, who do you have winning this one?
man, this is a game I actually stayed the hell away from on my betting parlay. I'm gonna go Inter just for Serie A, man. But they always seem to kind of get it done. I'm gonna say, yeah, if Lukaku starts, I would like to see Lukaku and Martinez back together again, man. It's been a while. Obviously, Lukaku came on as the sub, got the late goal last match, I believe. So
Yes.
when those two are together, it's deadly. I know they're in Porto, but I'm gonna take Inter.
Connor, who you got?
Yeah, we just saw Inter lost to Spezia this weekend, and I think it might be one of those things where they just decide to turn it on in Champions League. But when we talk about places that are, don't have much of a home field advantage, Man City, RB Leipzig, then we look at the Portuguese league. I mean, time and time again, it's been hard for teams to go to a Portuguese stadium and get a result. So this one is going to be tough. I think Porto is going to be able to advance in this one and get the dub just because I don't know too much about them. And I just think that when I watch Inter play in Serie A, because it's like I bet on them all the time, it always seems like whenever a play goes slightly wrong, there's a player putting their arms out like, why didn't you pass it to me here? Why'd you take that shot? It's like they don't, they might have a good philosophy, a good system they're working under, but it just seems like they don't get along personally. And I don't know what the cause could be behind that, but it just doesn't seem like they have that, team bond that they really need to kind of get through all that adversity that teams always have to go through in the Champions League. So I got Porto in this one. Benfica looked dangerous, and maybe it's just we talked about how the Bundesliga is strong. We might be seeing a good surge from what is it, Liga Nos?
Yeah,
that's a cool league name in Portugal.
Couldn't agree more. That Portuguese league is really on the up and up. If we just look at all the players that have been coming out of that league and being bought into the your top 5 leagues, it's always consistent. The next player for me that's on that list is Gonçalo Ramos out of Benfica. We'll see him move in the summer. One little caveat I'd like to add about this second leg is that Otavio, midfielder for FC Porto, got a red card in the first leg, so he will be out.
Oh.
He is a very big player for them as far as creativity and creating chances. So keep an eye on how they try to manage him not being on the field. With that being said, they have one of the best young goalkeepers in the game, Diogo Costa, Portuguese international goalkeeper. And then Meji Taremi is an absolute dog and just a threat every single time he gets on the field. To piggyback on what you were saying, again, Connor, I really like what you said here. Inter's identity, it's almost kind of reminds me of PSG. It's just you don't really know what that identity is. I think the closest they have to it is Barella. Barella is probably the
Yeah.
linchpin of this team as far as what it means to be an Italian side, and he's not enough of a vocal player to really kind of spread that identity and that team chemistry around enough. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, I know him very well at AC Milan. He is a very inconsistent player. Some games he absolutely fucking crushes it, and then others he makes the dumbest mistakes, and you're like, how are you at this level still making those mistakes? And then we have Lukaku, who sometimes plays like, he's the best striker in the world. Others, he looks like he's running around with Timberlands on, and he just can't get a good touch. It's so crazy, the consistency behind Inter, and you just wonder, is it the Champions League that gets them through this? Is that the stage that gets them through this, or does Porto at home pull them through? I am inclined to lean on Inter just because they do have such a powerhouse team with so many big names. Dumfries, who we often don't really talk about, was a starting outside back for the Netherlands that embarrassed Team USA in the World Cup. He is always
Yeah.
You got Lautaro Martinez, who maybe struggled in the World Cup, but absolutely dominates Serie A. It's just, any given Sunday, so to speak, Inter could easily flip the switch. So I think Porto will get a goal, and I think this will go into extra time, being that they are at home. The odds for this game are Porto to win plus 165, the draw at plus 240, and then Inter at plus 165. So this game is a giant toss.
Yeah.
I would stay far away from this one. Personally,
Yeah.
I'd go for the so help me out here. I don't really bet. If Porto get a goal and they quote unquote win, is that considered a draw or is that considered a win in this sense?
Win.
That is a win.
You're betting for the 90 minutes.
Okay, so then I would take that Porto bet at 165.
You can bet though to advance. So if you bet Porto to advance, you would go by aggregate at that point.
And that's what happened. Yeah. That was my philosophy when I was watching or thinking about the Benfica versus Club Brugge game. They had such a substantial lead already. I could have seen Club Brugge getting a 1-0 victory in that one. Yeah. And that would have hit the bet. And the betting odds were clearly favoring Benfica, but it works for Benfica because that's what makes betting on Champions League so unbelievable, because also, when do you see all plus odds across the board for the money line or the draw? So it is crazy. And also, I guess the last point about that one, look up the goal that the guy Meyer got for Club Brugge in that game. It might have been the goal of the best goal in Champions League so far. It was unreal. But Inter, they're just a team that is like, just when you were talking about it and you had the starting 11 up, it's like Acerbi just came from Lazio. Skriniar wants to leave. Bastoni, he's the guy that's been there. Çalhanoğlu, if he just came from AC Milan. Lukaku's still a Chelsea player. So it is like, who's really playing for the badge there?
I forgot about that. Oh my God. I'm pulling up the goal real quick. Hopefully it doesn't fuck the stream up. Here we go. Yeah, oh my God. I just see him wound up. Holy fuck. This is where I paused it. Right here.
Oh, okay. Holy shit.
He scores this. So we're just going to bring it back a couple of seconds. What a ball. What a find here. Whoop. Oh!
Wow.
Woo. Okay. We'll quickly get off of there so we don't get off the stream.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because I believe I even dropped that little tidbit about Club Brugge winning but not advancing, and that being a potential, decent risk if you were to take one. But moving on over, let's see, where am I? It's not here. There we go. The two other games for next week, we've got Real Madrid versus Liverpool being held in Real Madrid, and Napoli versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Booty, who you got? Real Madrid, Liverpool.
Let's go back to what I was saying earlier, man. There's no way I'm betting against Real Madrid at this point. Let's go. Let's do it, man. They've beat me up too many fucking times, man. Let's go.
Now, hold on.
It's at Real Madrid, right?
Is there a chance that Liverpool win and Real Madrid advance?
Mm,
100%.
yeah.
That's something you got to be careful of there.
Hmm.
So how about this? Who do you think will advance, and then what do you think the result of this game is after 90?
So let's see. So Liverpool would have to win 3-0 or win by 3,
More, I think.
right? It was 5-2 last.
So it'd have to be
Right?
a 3-goal advantage to take it into extra time
Yeah.
because it was 5-2,
Right.
correct?
So they need at least 3 to go to extra time, and then they would need another one. So they'd have to win 4-0 eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't. I mean, I know they've done it before. I know they've done it. It's Liverpool. It's what they do. But
But
this is
see,
Real
that's where I'm
Madrid and what
going.
they do. Yep.
That's where I'm going.
I'm going Real. I'm going Real Madrid all day.
So, okay. So, again, advance. You think Real Madrid advance. Is there any chance Real Madrid lose this game 2-1, 3-1?
Nope. Nope.
You think they win the
Nope.
game and they advance?
Yep.
Okay. Connor, what do you got here?
Yeah, I'm staying away from Real Madrid in this one. I want them to advance, so I'm not going to really put anything on Liverpool. But we saw last year, it seems like they're the exact same team in Champions League as they were last year.
Yeah.
And when they faced Chelsea in the first leg, they got a couple goal advantage, and then they had to go to extra time against Chelsea. Or if it wasn't extra time, they kept it really close.
Yeah.
They, got down a few goals. Yeah, we were joking that it seemed like Liverpool used up all their goals in the Manchester United game. So it's like, I don't know if they have any goals left. They just lost to Bournemouth yesterday. So neither team are really firing on all cylinders currently. I mean, obviously whooping Man United, but that game was over pretty quickly. Yeah, this one, it's the craziness of the Champions League. Like, you would never expect that Liverpool could beat Real Madrid by 4-0, but when you put the psychology behind that aggregate in there, anything's possible. So my guess is that it won't be a favorable result for Real Madrid, but they will be going through.
I am inclined to agree here.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool, I think they could easily draw or win this because Real Madrid are very confident with sitting ahead with so many goals. But I would take Real Madrid to advance as well. So, a la Madrid. And the last game we've got Napoli on track Frankfurt. This is a 2-0 aggregate to Napoli. Napoli is hosting. Is there any chance that Napoli don't advance, Connor?
No, Napoli's been one of my favorite teams to watch all year. I mean, I think their record is something like 12-2 or 13-2 in Serie A, which is just unbelievable. Or no, excuse me. It's right now 26 games played. They're 22-2. So that's just an unbelievable record. It shows their consistency. I mean, really, no other team has been that consistent in the top 5 leagues this year. So this isn't going to be where Napoli go through. I have a future for Champions League on Real Madrid and Napoli. So those are the two teams I think have the best chance of winning it all. And Real Madrid just because they own that competition.
That's right. Booty, what you got here?
Napoli all day, baby. Connor said it best. Here's a couple more stats I'll throw your way for you. 60 goals for Napoli in domestic play this year. Impressive. How about more impressive? Goals allowed, 16. They've given up 1 goal in a month. That gets overlooked quite a bit with all the goals you're scoring, obviously,
Wow.
And to add to that, red card for Frankfurt last match from their starting striker, Muani.
Yeah.
He'll be missing this game as well. So, Napoli all day.
Damn, that's a great point. And they're at home in the Maradona Stadium.
Yep.
Good luck, Eintracht Frankfurt. Let's just quickly look at the odds here. Napoli with a -200, a draw at +330, and then Eintracht Frankfurt at +550. I didn't say the odds for Real Madrid Liverpool, so that's +130 for Real Madrid, +290 for a draw, and then +175 for Liverpool. This is a spicy one. I would stay far away from this one if I could. If the only thing I would bet on would be the Real Madrid to advance, but you never know. We've seen crazier things happen in Champions League. Well, that'll do.
It was Frankfurt's season last season.
That's right.
I think they had their fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they were sad to see themselves leave Europa.
Yeah.
Like, damn, we won, but now we got to go play with the real competition. All right, that'll do it for Champions League round of 16, leg 2. Footy, take it away.
Let's do it, baby. It's time to give them shout outs to someone that you love, that you hate. I'm going to throw it over to our repeat offender, Mr. Connor. Who you got?
Let's see. I'm going with Benzema. He's been real low, so I need to see some goals from Benzema and make sure that no crazy ass shit happens in that Real Madrid Liverpool game. And Vinny, he hasn't been finishing consistently. Let's go with that Real Madrid attacking core there. Let's see some goals from them.
Hell yeah.
Keep it going. Keep it rolling.
That's what I'm thinking too, man. It's just they can't stay quiet for too long, right?
Right, exactly.
No, sir. I'd like to give a shout out. I'd like to give a shout out to the Total 90 Discord that we just started. Check it out. We also want to give a shout out to the artists that help us with our latest Footy Fetish logo. We are rebranding. Connor, let's see if I can share that with you.
Oh, let's go.
Let's see it. We wanted to make sure that we kept the identity of a soccer podcast, but we also wanted to add a little bit of our city's flair as well. So we threw in a fleur-de-lis, which is, it's very cultural to New Orleans, but looking at it on a global soccer scale, there are many teams around the world that use the fleur-de-lis as their logo, and I'm hoping it'll pull up.
That's sweet. I think I might have seen a sneak peek of it when I hopped on.
Oh yeah. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go. And Booty requested the all black logo, so there we have it.
That's awesome.
So if you look, we've got
That's perfect.
Balls and feet at the top. That's what we're all about. You got the name of the podcast, the fleur-de-lis, the mic with the ball, and then this is the Total 90. So I don't know if I've told you about that, but I have filed for the Total 90 trademark, and I am currently in the publication phase where the trademark becomes publicized, and it is we're on the downhill slope, so to speak. So
let's go.
Yeah, it's exciting. So that'll be the name of the application. Will be the Total 90 Fantasy Soccer app. So wanted to drop in the Total 90 logo to show the sponsor of the Footy Fetish. So very exciting news. Just wanted to give a shout out to all those artists and people helping move that ball. Booty, who's your shout out?
Man, shout out to drum roll, Club Rouge, Dortmund, PSG, Tottenham. You got whacked. You didn't get whacked off, but you got whacked. See you next year. That's all I got for you.
All right.
We're about to wrap this thing up, baby. We're going to wrap it up like a little burrito, a little Footy Fetish burrito right here. Connor, thank you, man. We appreciate you. And obviously, we'll be seeing more of you in the future. We always love kicking it with the Soccerheads FC, man. We love you guys. Thank you for taking your time on a Sunday, too. We appreciate that, man.
Hell yeah. I mean, right back at you guys. It really seems like we got some big things cooking up in the future. We're really figuring out our own kind of unique paths for the Soccerheads show, the Footy Fetish show, and the fact that we'll be able to, link up. And we've been doing this for years now. It's been crazy that we're still at it, and we're going to be doing this for years to come. So it's going to be awesome, kind of growing with you guys.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Man.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Can't wait. Just begun.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Well, ladies and gents, this has been the Footy Fetish Show, where the fetish is real and the footy is soccer. Peace out, Boy Scouts.
All right. Hang tight. Ending the broadcast.